So, have you ever wondered what actually happens after the immediate panic of a massive cyber attack fades away? When our critical, everyday digital infrastructure completely fails, who actually goes in to figure out what went wrong so it doesn't happen again? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the fascinating and honestly mostly hidden aftermath of catastrophic cyber breaches.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a huge development in global cybersecurity today. Australia's completely new approach to turning devastating hacks into critical systemic lessons. It's essentially a system designed to act as a national shield, and the mechanics behind how it actually works are really intriguing.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, the constant threat of cyber attacks. Second, Australia's new cyber shield. Third, the American blueprint. Fourth, upgrading the investigation formula. And finally, the future of cyber resilience.
Let's start with part one. The constant threat of cyber attacks, and how high-profile breaches hit home.
To really understand why this new shield matters, we've got to look at how intense the threat landscape has become. In recent years, Australia has been absolutely battered by high-profile cyber attacks that directly impacted millions of everyday citizens. We're talking about massive, deeply disruptive breaches at the major health insurer Medibank and the enormous telecommunications company Optus. These weren't just abstract theoretical vulnerabilities, these were direct hits on the personal data and the daily lives of ordinary people. And that intense, very public vulnerability put an enormous amount of pressure on lawmakers in Canberra to fundamentally rethink how they defend the country.
Moving on to part two, Australia's new cyber shield and the creation of the Cyber Incident Review Board.
So the absolute cornerstone of this new strategy, which was rolled out under the Cybersecurity Act 2024, is something called a no-fault review. Basically, this means investigating significant cyber attacks to find systemic lessons rather than just pointing fingers and assigning individual or corporate blame. Think of it exactly like an airplane crash investigation. When a plane goes down, the immediate goal of safety investigators isn't to run out and arrest the pilot, right? The goal is to pull apart the wreckage, find the exact systemic failure, and ensure that specific type of crash never ever happens again. That is exactly what this new board is designed to do, just for the digital world. Led by Chair Narelle Devine from Telstra, this board pulls top experts from some heavy-hitting industries. We're talking Boeing Australia, NBN Co., the University of New South Wales, the law firm Allens, Toll Group, and SA Power Networks. And it's absolutely vital to remember that when we say critical infrastructure, we aren't just throwing around a government buzzword. We're talking about your power grid, your internet connection, your daily logistics. These are the physical pillars keeping modern society running.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the demographic makeup of this leadership team. Out of the 7 members appointed to this board, the majority are female, in a highly technical security field that traditionally skews heavily male, especially at those senior executive levels. This is a really rare and groundbreaking shift in leadership dynamics.
This quote from Tony Burke, the Minister for Cybersecurity and Home Affairs, perfectly nails the core mission here. He stated, "We know that cyber attacks are constant. This guarantees we learn from every attack and keep increasing our resilience." It's essentially an acknowledgement that, hey, you can't mathematically stop every single attack out there, but you can definitely upgrade your armor after you take a hit. Let's move to and see how this builds into part 3, the American blueprint, exploring the rise and fall of the US model. So Australia didn't just invent this out of thin air, they actually modeled their approach on the Cyber Safety Review Board established in the United States. That board was created by the Biden administration in 2022, and in the following months, it conducted some early reviews into major vulnerabilities like Log4j and the Lapsus Dollar hacker group. Later on, it released a highly consequential report on a major Microsoft breach. However, in 2026, the board was disbanded by the Trump administration. And what's wild is that at the exact time it was scrapped, the board was right in the middle of investigating Salt Typhoon, which was a massive Chinese intelligence operation targeting U.S. telecommunications networks. To understand exactly how powerful these post-incident reviews can actually be, you just have to look at the U.S. board's most impactful moment, that Microsoft report. The board did not pull any punches. They accused the tech giant of a cascade of avoidable errors that allow Chinese state-linked hackers to literally access the email accounts of senior U.S. government officials. The board demanded real cultural and leadership changes. And the fallout? It was immense. Right after the report, Microsoft's CEO issued a company-wide directive declaring that prioritizing security above all else was critical to the company's future. I mean, that is the power of a deep systemic investigation. But, the U.S. model wasn't exactly perfect right out of the gate. Former U.S. cyber official Jeff Green, who actually helped establish the American board,
pointed out a pretty critical flaw. He argued that those early reviews into Log4j and Lapsus kind of fell short. Why? Well, because they failed to focus on a specific incident attributable to a single company's failures. Without pointing to specific structural failures at a specific entity, it was incredibly difficult to drive real, actionable accountability.
Part 4. Upgrading the investigation formula. Let's look at how Australia is fixing the flaws of the past.
This comparison brilliantly illustrates the evolution of the whole concept. While the U.S. board relied entirely on voluntary cooperation, had a much broader membership, and is currently disbanded, the new Australian board has real teeth. It has a narrower, sharper focus specifically on critical infrastructure. It is newly active, and most importantly, it can legally compel information from entities that decline to participate. Think about that difference. They aren't just politely asking for cooperation anymore. They are legally demanding it. That is a massive structural upgrade for accountability.
However, it's not a perfectly finalized formula just yet. Actually, there's a surprising detail here. The Australian government's plans do not allow the board to temporarily expand its composition to bring in outside experts for individual reviews that might require highly specialized knowledge. They essentially left one of Jeff Green's key recommendations on the cutting room floor. It just goes to show that this whole framework for investigating cyber incidents is still very much an evolving model.
And that brings us to Part 5, the future of cyber resilience, and the global push for post-incident review.
Because this push isn't just happening in the US and Australia. There's a rapidly growing global consensus that we absolutely must systematically study these digital failures. For example, the European Union has set up a very similar mechanism under its Cyber Solidarity Act, tasking its cybersecurity agency, ENISA, with conducting post-incident reviews of significant cross-border attacks. Now, sure, while this review function hasn't been heavily exercised over there just yet, the framework is firmly in place. Systematically learning from catastrophic attacks is quickly becoming the new global standard for digital defense.
The absolutely crucial target here is the year 2030. This new board is a foundational piece of the Australian government's 2023-2030 cybersecurity strategy. Their explicitly stated goal is to make Australia one of the world's most cybersecure nations by 2030. And why should this matter to you personally? Because true cyber resilience means your hospital records actually stay private. It means your bank accounts remain accessible, and the infrastructure powering your home doesn't just get shut off by some distant hacker. The success of this board directly impacts the stability of our connected, everyday lives.
Which brings us to our final thought today. In a world of constant, rapidly evolving cyber threats, is learning systematically from our absolute worst mistakes actually our strongest possible defense? As digital attacks become an unavoidable part of modern life, maybe our ultimate shield isn't just about perfectly preventing the breach, but mastering the recovery? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.